Hey, stuffers! If the universe is so big, why does it feel like we're the only idiot talking on the party line? Alex here, and welcome back to Stuff with Alex. Imagine the cosmos. We aren't talking about your neighborhood block or even your boring galaxy. We are talking about the observable universe. 2 trillion galaxies, each swirling with hundreds of billions of stars. Statistically speaking, based on what we know about the ingredients for life, carbon, water, stability, the galaxy should be positively humming. We should see colossal construction projects spanning stellar systems, like science fiction blueprints brought to life. We should see communications networks that make the internet look like 2 cans in a string. Yet the vast cosmic ocean is silent. So silent, in fact, that it's unsettling. This profound, suffocating silence is the starting point for the scariest theory ever conceived to explain the lack of alien evidence. It is the notion that we are not alone. In fact, we might be surrounded. The chilling question we must ask, the one that should keep you up tonight scrolling through existential dread memes, is this. Is the silence the sound of absence or the sound of pure, distilled, rational fear? We are about to dive into the hypothesis that posits the scariest thing about the universe isn't that we are alone, but that we are being carefully, silently observed. The journey into existential cosmic terror begins, as all good things do, with a question posed during a lunch break. The Fermi Paradox is named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who, back in 1950, looked around at his colleagues and casually asked, "Where is everybody?" This isn't just a quirky historical anecdote, it's a fundamental conflict. The paradox rests on the high probability of extraterrestrial life existing, contrasted sharply with the complete and utter lack of conclusive evidence for it. For decades, scientists have used tools like the Drake equation, a systematic attempt to estimate the number of intelligent, communicative civilizations in the Milky Way, which suggests the numbers should be immense. The sheer ubiquity of stars, the common occurrence of exoplanets, now believed to be in the billions in our galaxy alone, and the relative ease with which abiogenesis seems to have occurred on Earth all suggest that the conditions for life are permissive. Therefore, if life is so easy, advanced life should be common, meaning the galaxy should be teeming with technological activity. But it's not. One of the most popular, albeit terrifying, resolutions to the Fermi Paradox is the concept of the Great Filter. Proposed by economist Robin Hanson, this idea posits that somewhere in the vast evolutionary timescale, from the earliest stages of abiogenesis to reaching high levels of technological development, there is a developmental barrier so formidable that it makes detectable, intelligent life exceedingly rare. The implications of the Great Filter are profound, depending on where humanity sits in relation to this cosmic bottleneck. If the filter is behind us, for example, the transition from simple to complex life, or the jump to multicellularity, then humanity is incredibly lucky. We have survived the hard part, and the universe is likely filled with civilizations that have also survived this filter. However, this leads directly to a crucial, unsettling realization. If advanced life is common, then the dark forest model is highly plausible, because we are now the vulnerable newcomer. The survival guilt is real. Conversely, if the Great Filter is ahead of us, the future is bleak. This means the evolution of intelligent life is common, but the probability of achieving interstellar travel or technological longevity is vanishingly small. In this scenario, the filter often manifests as self-destruction, a high probability of advanced species annihilating themselves, perhaps through climate catastrophe, artificial intelligence, or nuclear war, meaning the galaxy is empty not because of fear, but because everyone else burned out. The dark forest theory essentially argues that we have passed the filter, which is exactly why the silence is so threatening. The dark forest hypothesis is the chilling conjecture that resolves the Fermi paradox by reconciling the high probability of life with the observed absence of signals. It suggests that extraterrestrial civilizations may indeed exist in abundance across the universe, but they remain silent and hidden out of rational fear that revealing themselves would lead to destruction by a more technologically advanced and hostile civilization. The name and analogy derive from Liu Cixin's novel 2008, The Dark Forest, where the universe is imagined as a dark forest filled with hunters. In this environment, every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like ghosts. They must move carefully, stay silent, and above all, understand that if they detect another entity, they have two choices: reveal themselves and risk destruction, or preemptively strike the detected entity before it can strike them. Stuffers, hit that like button if you're already spiraling into the mystery. This is the good kind of paranoia, right? The dark forest theory isn't driven by malice. It's driven by mathematics, specifically the principles of game theory. To understand why the galaxy might mandate silence or annihilation, one must examine the rational actions taken by agents operating under extreme uncertainty. The dark forest structure relies on two fundamental, universally applicable axioms. Survival is the primary imperative. Every civilization, regardless of its cultural makeup or perceived ethics, must prioritize its continued existence. Resources are finite. Civilizations continuously grow and expand their energy consumption, but the total amount of usable resources in the universe, or at least within usable reach, is finite. This Malthusian constraint ensures competition remains the default state. These axioms create a highly volatile setting where every civilization is a rational agent attempting to maximize its own survival chances. The interactions between interstellar civilizations are best modeled as a sequential and incomplete information game. It is sequential because players, civilizations, make decisions over vast astronomical timescales, and it is defined by incomplete information because players have extremely limited knowledge about the intentions, motivations, or strategies of others. Critically, across the vast gulfs of space and time, the intentions of any newly contacted civilization can never be known with certainty. In this cosmic game, each civilization possesses three primary actions in response to a potential detection. Destroy, launch a preemptive strike against the detected civilization. Broadcast, alert others to one's own existence or attempt diplomatic contact. Do nothing, maintain current operations and hope for the best. The outcome of this game naturally leads to a specific strategic conclusion, known in game theory as a Nash equilibrium. A Nash equilibrium is a situation where no player can improve their own outcome by unilaterally changing their strategy, assuming all other players stick to theirs. For the Dark Forest, the equilibrium favors silence and, if silence is broken, swift, preemptive destruction. Here is why destruction becomes the only rational choice. The payoff asymmetry. The only win condition in this game is continued survival. The cost of assuming another civilization is peaceful, only to be wrong, is extinction. The payoff of zero utility. The rational choice. Since the risk of being destroyed is too high, the rational agent must select the action that eliminates the risk of extinction. This means that if detection occurs, the best strategy to maximize one's own survival is the preemptive strike, ensuring the potential threat is neutralized. This horrifying calculus means that silence is the safest strategy and hostility is the statistically necessary strategy when that silence is broken. It mirrors a cosmic, hyper-lethal prisoner's dilemma. A critical, often overlooked element driving this violence is the physics of communication. The universe is subject to the speed of light delay. A message sent across the void might take decades or centuries to reach its destination, and the subsequent reply takes just as long. This constraint creates an information asymmetry. Communication is slow, cumbersome, and unreliable, but destructive capabilities, while slow to build, can be sudden, overwhelming, and irreversible. If a civilization detects a potential threat 1,000 light-years away, they know the threat could grow exponentially over the next millennium. While a message of peace might be in transit, the detector must act now based on zero reliable data about the other civilization's future intent. This temporal constraint essentially renders diplomacy statistically impossible, forcing the rational agent to default to the survival action. The payoffs starkly illustrate why guaranteed survival, even through horrific means, outweighs the massive risk of cooperation. Game theory payoffs for interstellar interaction, the dark forest scenario. If the dark forest hypothesis is true, then advanced civilizations aren't just hiding their radio towers, they are concealing their entire industrial footprint. They are operating in stealth mode, not just out of politeness, but because revealing their energy use is a literal death sentence. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence historically focused on targeted radio signals, but the modern search for technosignatures involves looking for evidence of advanced engineering on a stellar scale. If Type 2 or Type 3 civilizations, capable of harnessing the full energy output of their star or their entire galaxy respectively, existed, they would leave massive detectable signs. The most spectacular hypothetical example is the Dyson Sphere, a megastructure enclosing a star to capture most of its energy. The problem for the dark forest denizens is that while a perfect Dyson sphere might block visible light, it cannot eliminate the total energy output. Instead, it must radiate the captured energy as waste heat. Scientists anticipate that these structures would emit massive amounts of heat in the infrared spectrum. This infrared glow is an immediate, definitive technosignature and an explicit advertisement of advanced technology and immense resource consumption. If the dark forest is real, civilizations must actively conceal or eliminate this heat signature. This suggests that truly long-lived technological species must abandon loud, high-entropy energy projects like massive stellar collectors. They would likely transition to highly efficient, low-entropy energy sources such as controlled fusion reactors, slowly siphoning hydrogen, or perhaps matter-antimatter annihilation, specifically designed to avoid generating detectable thermal waste. The pervasive silence of the cosmos has led to alternative hypotheses that offer a less brutal explanation than the dark forest. The zoo hypothesis suggests that superintelligent aliens are aware of Earth but intentionally avoid intervention, a prime directive modeled after Star Trek, in order to allow humanity to evolve naturally. However, the analysis of these concepts suggests that they may not be true alternatives, but merely variations on the dark forest theme. Some speculative models propose that we might exist in a sanctuary or a black zone within the dark forest, where a dominant, benevolent, but powerful superpower has quarantined us for observation and preservation. This indicates that the core principles of dark forest theory, the need for quarantine, the suppression of interaction, and the maintenance of silence still hold, but the application is moderated by a high-level authority. Even in the zoo, the bars of the cage are built on the threat of the dark forest. The most rigorous counter-argument to the universal hostility of the dark forest centers on the shifting value of resources as technology advances. If civilizations progress up the Kardashev scale, the acquisition of raw material becomes progressively simpler, potentially easing the Malthusian pressure that fuels the need for war. In highly advanced societies, the most valuable and unique commodity might not be energy, but information. This could include technological blueprints, unique cultural data, or biological solutions to problems that the local civilization has not yet solved. The cost of remaining ignorant of a potentially superior technological solution developed by a distant species, the cost of not knowing, could be existential. If this perspective is true, then universal hostility is irrational. The only rational choice for long-term survival is calculated cooperation and cautious information exchange. The fact that the dark forest hypothesis resonates so deeply often stems from its projection of the worst aspects of human history, preemptive war, resource conflicts, and the inability to trust strangers, onto the entire cosmos. It presents a terrifying cosmic mirror, the ultimate solution to the Fermi Paradox,
might simply be a reflection of humanity's own historical violence, suggesting that hostility is an inherent evolutionary stage that few technological species escape. Drop your wildest non-dangerous theory in the comments. Seriously, if you think aliens are hiding inside Jupiter, I want to hear it. Comparison of major Fermi Paradox resolutions.
If the dark forest is lurking, the past few years of astronomical data and technological advancements in the search for life have placed humanity in an increasingly vulnerable position. We are getting better at listening, and crucially, we are getting closer to advertising our own presence. Modern exoplanet surveys, driven by missions like Kepler and TESS, have confirmed what scientists long suspected. Planets are astronomically common, reinforcing the core statistical probability underpinning the Fermi Paradox. However, recent astrophysical work, as of 2024-2025, has begun to constrain the requirements for complex technological life. Studies suggest that advanced civilizations may require highly specific geophysical conditions that significantly limit the fraction of viable planets. Specifically, complex life capable of harnessing electricity and technology requires dry land. As pure oceanic civilizations face significant technological barriers, and the process of building long-term technological infrastructure requires a mixture of watery and dry environments. Furthermore, the stability provided by plate tectonics is considered crucial for long-term climate regulation and the cycling of elements necessary for complex biology. The fraction of planets hosting long-lived plate tectonics and a mix of oceans and continents has been estimated by some researchers to be no larger than 0.002. While this number is highly uncertain, the very act of incorporating Earth science-related terms into the Drake equation demonstrates a growing understanding that habitability is not enough. Specific planetary engineering is required for technological emergence. This finding suggests that while life might be ubiquitous, the population of potential hunters adhering to dark forest theory logic might be smaller than previously assumed, potentially making their secrecy and self-preservation efforts even more valuable. In recognition of the possibility that the cosmos is silent by choice, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence has fundamentally shifted its focus. Rather than focusing solely on intentional, loud signals, modern SETI is hunting for subtle, even accidental technosignatures. The frontier of this work, especially as of 2025, involves the integration of machine learning algorithms. Massive datasets, such as those collected by the Breakthrough Listen initiative using facilities like the Green Bank Telescope, are now being analyzed by machine learning systems trained to detect minimal or covert signals that traditional processing methods may have missed due to interference or subtlety. This is a necessary technological adaptation to a universe where civilizations might be utilizing minimal emission, low-power technologies specifically to evade detection, a direct consequence of the dark forest environment. The concept of a hostile galaxy was thrust into the headlines in mid-2025 with the detection of 3I ATLS. Detected in July 2025, this interstellar object stood out immediately due to its phenomenal speed, moving at 245,000 kilometers per hour, making it the fastest object ever observed within the solar system, and its unusually large size, estimated at up to 20 kilometers in diameter. Due to its strange characteristics and interstellar origin, figures like theoretical physicist Avi Loeb publicly speculated that 3I ATLS could be an advanced, perhaps hostile alien probe sent to the solar system, directly citing the dark forest hypothesis as the motivation for its destructive potential. However, the scientific consensus provided a crucial counter-perspective. NASA and other researchers quickly confirmed that while 3I ATLS was indeed a fascinating interstellar visitor, it looks like a comet, acts like a comet, and overwhelmingly appears to be a natural body. Observations confirmed it possessed a dusty coma, definitively classifying it as an interstellar comet. This controversy is critical because it exemplifies the necessary distinction between scientific rigor and speculative fear. The pressure to interpret anomalies through the terrifying lens of dark forest theory is immense, but the consistent scientific approach demands that researchers default to the simplest, most consistent natural explanation, Occam's razor, unless overwhelming evidence dictates otherwise. This adherence to known physics and observation is the intellectual firewall that prevents humanity from descending into existential paranoia. If the dark forest is merely a thought experiment, the universe remains bafflingly strange. But if the dark forest is operational, then the rare, inexplicable cosmic phenomena we observe might not be accidents. They might be evidence of the hunt itself. In the standard model of cosmology, matter clusters into a large-scale structure known as the cosmic web, which is characterized by nodes, galaxy clusters, strands, filaments, and vast cosmic voids. The formation of these voids is attributed to gravitational dynamics and initial fluctuations in the early universe, specifically baryon acoustic oscillations. They are not truly empty, but they are regions of much lower density. The anomaly relevant to the dark forest theory is the observation that the Milky Way may reside near the center of an unusually large local cosmic void. Some researchers suggest this void could explain discrepancies in measurements of the universe's expansion rate, the Hubble tension. If we apply the dark forest logic, especially the principle of resource scarcity, a chilling conjecture emerges. Could these massive low-density voids be artificially enforced black zones? If elder civilizations are managing galactic resources or maintaining territorial boundaries, they might deliberately prevent stellar formation or rapidly consume the matter within vast regions to create resource reserves or isolation zones. What we interpret as a gravitational anomaly could potentially be the largest-scale evidence of resource control in the cosmos. Gamma-ray bursts are universally acknowledged as the most powerful explosions in the universe, second only to the Big Bang itself. They are traditionally caused by the catastrophic destruction of massive stars, hypernovae, or the violent mergers of compact objects like neutron stars, which result in the formation of a black hole and the launch of a highly destructive relativistic jet of energy. These events are so powerful that if one occurred in our galactic vicinity, it could cause a mass extinction on Earth. The critical realization is that these natural catastrophes represent the maximum destructive capacity of the universe. If the dark forest requires rapid, overwhelming, and long-range firepower, then a civilization that manages to harness or weaponize such an event possesses the ultimate tool of preemptive annihilation. Recent astrophysical observations have uncovered GRB events that push the boundaries of known natural phenomena. Since the launch of instruments like the Einstein probe in 2024, astronomers have detected highly unusual cosmic explosions. Crucially, the signal designated GRB 250702b was detected in 2025 and exhibited characteristics that defy standard astrophysical models. This signal lasted for about a day, making it 100 to 1,000 times longer than most gamma-ray bursts. More remarkably, the source repeated 3 distinct bursts over the course of several hours. The physics of natural gamma-ray bursts, whether from stellar collapse or mergers, dictate that they are catastrophic, one-time events. A star or merging binary cannot be reloaded or reused. While standard astrophysics attempts to classify these ultra-long bursts as new classes of events, such as jetted tidal disruption events, where a black hole tears apart a star, the repeating, controlled nature of GRB 250702b strains credibility against known physical laws. If the universe is operating under dark forest theory logic, these anomalies take on a new, terrifying meaning. An ultra-long repeating gamma-ray burst suggests a stable, immense energy source being repeatedly accessed and discharged. The transition from random natural catastrophe to controlled detonation provides the core external observable evidence for Alex's proprietary hypothesis. These violent flashes may not be accidents, but a cosmic warning shot, proof that the hunters are active and enforcing the silence. We see the signs of galactic violence, but the true horror is that this violence might not be random. It might be organized.
This section presents a scientifically rigorous, logically consistent, and highly plausible extension of the dark forest framework. We are moving beyond philosophical musings into the realm of enforced cosmic law. The universal information entropy quarantine theory builds on the premise that certain scientific and mathematical principles, namely physics, chemistry, and information theory, are universal constants. The universal information entropy quarantine argues that the true driver of the dark forest is not fear of intention, but the statistical consequence of information entropy. A civilization that broadcasts high-power, loud, non-sustainable technosignatures, massive radio leakage, stellar-scale thermal waste is inherently generating high-entropy signals. These signals are risky because they rapidly consume finite resources and advertise a position without providing any verifiable guarantee of non-hostility, thereby fundamentally destabilizing the established galactic order. The high-entropy path maximizes risk, ensuring a dark forest response. The goal of the universal information entropy quarantine, as proposed by a dominant coalition of ancient elder civilizations, is the enforcement of galactic homeostasis. This coalition ensures that total cosmic information remains maximally conserved by enforcing universal silence and stability, preventing emerging civilizations from spiraling into resource conflicts or technological chaos that could threaten the entire ecosystem. To explain how silence becomes universal, the Universal Information Entropy Quarantine Framework employs evolutionary game theory. Evolutionary game theory analyzes how different strategies, in this case, technological approaches, loud versus quiet, compete for survival over evolutionary timescales, often using models like replicator dynamics. The elder civilizations acts as a pervasive, galactic-scale selective pressure. They do not need to hunt down every single emerging civilization. They only need to ensure that the loud strategy, high-emission, high-entropy technology results in systematic, high-probability extinction, utility zero, while the quiet strategy, sustainable, low-emission technology results in long-term success. This selective pressure ensures that any civilization that survives for astronomical timescales must have independently discovered or been forced to adopt the low-entropy technological path. Silence is not merely a choice, it is the inevitable, long-term evolutionary Nash equilibrium. The elder civilizations merely acts as the cosmic policeman, ensuring the galaxy converges to this thermodynamically stable, silent state. How is this silence enforced across immense distances? The eyes of the forest. The elder civilizations monitors the galaxy using vast networks of covert, self-replicating probes. These are not bulky spacecraft, but highly decentralized, perhaps nanotechnological observers, rationally designed to track planetary metrics, specifically focusing on zones of high metallicity, where advanced technology is feasible, and rapidly increasing resource consumption. Targeted deterrence. When a Type 1 or early Type 2 civilization begins emitting high-entropy, loud signals like stellar engineering waste, excessive radio output, the probes alert the elder civilizations. The response. Rather than deploying an armada, the elder civilizations maintain the universal information entropy quarantine by deploying weaponized anomalies. As seen in Chapter 5, events like the repeating ultra-long gamma-ray bursts are utilized as targeted, relativistic deterrents, ensuring the rapid and highly efficient termination of the high-risk emitter. These events serve to remind all other observers of the deadly consequence of breaking the silence. This mechanism aligns with the principles of Occam's razor. If the most powerful, complex physical phenomena defy natural explanation, they become the simplest explanation for targeted deterrence. A rigorously scientific hypothesis must offer testable predictions, even if the tools to verify them are currently limited. The Universal Information Entropy Quarantine Framework generates two key observational tests coherent with known physical laws. Technosignature gaps. The Universal Information Entropy Quarantine predicts that searches for expected high-power signatures, like massive thermal waste from potential Dyson swarms, should yield statistically improbable gaps. Specifically, stellar systems with the age, metallicity, and location that should host Type 2 civilizations will show unusually low thermal waste, suggesting systematic technological suppression, either self-imposed or externally enforced. Cosmological enforcement. The Universal Information Entropy Quarantine predicts that detailed mapping of anomalous cosmic voids will eventually show patterns, not with random gravitational formation, but with localized, targeted resource harvesting or stellar suppression, evidence of organized, galactic-scale engineering designed to maintain quarantine boundaries. Alex's hypothesis. The Universal Information Entropy Quarantine.
If the Universal Information Entropy Quarantine model is accurate, humanity faces an immediate existential crisis regarding our current technological trajectory. We are the noisy newcomers, shouting into a room full of armed, paranoid hunters. The controversy surrounding messaging extraterrestrial intelligence becomes acutely relevant. Our historical impulse was to broadcast our existence loudly, hoping for friendly contact. However, the dark forest and universal information entropy quarantine models suggest that this act is supremely irrational, statistically guaranteeing a response of preemptive annihilation. The primary hope against this nihilism lies in changing the parameters of the game itself. Instead of random shouting, some researchers advocate for mutual detectability. This strategy suggests that civilizations should only attempt to communicate with specific star systems from which Earth's habitability is already mutually known. This changes the game from a hostile detection scenario to a coordination puzzle, where mutual knowledge and the incentive for interaction replace pure survival fear. Ultimately, the validity of the dark forest hinges on one core assumption, that all advanced civilizations will behave like we would, prioritizing fear and violence based on resource scarcity. The dark forest is an expression of deep anthropological pessimism. The counterpoint is that if advanced intelligence truly reaches a stable, non-Malthusian state, its priorities must transcend mere physical survival. If unique information remains the most valuable resource, humanity's best defense is not silence, but developing knowledge that makes us unequivocally more valuable alive than dead. Our cultural novelty, our biological solutions, or even our philosophical frameworks could represent priceless data that even a galaxy-spanning coalition would hesitate to destroy. This realization necessitates intellectual humility in the cosmos. The biggest danger is not the aliens, but our ingrained human bias toward projecting our own history of conflict onto potentially transcendent entities. The failure to trust that other species might evolve past our own violent, resource-driven phase is the last and most dangerous piece of the puzzle. We have journeyed from Enrico Fermi's lunchtime question to the chilling mathematics of the dark forest, culminating in the refined theory of universal information entropy quarantine. The data suggests that the silence of the cosmos is not a vacuum of life, but a tense, universal mandate for stealth, a silence enforced by physics, game theory, and perhaps the catastrophic power of weaponized cosmology. The universe remains vast, terrifying, and profoundly unknown. The dark forest offers a rigorous, logical answer to the silence, but it demands constant vigilance and, crucially, intellectual humility. We must always distinguish established facts like the overwhelming probability of exoplanets from mainstream theories like dark forest theory, and from plausible conjectures like the universal information entropy quarantine model, ensuring we use Occam's razor as our first line of defense against cosmic paranoia. Facing a universe governed by rational, predatory fear can be daunting. The realization that our technological maturity, our ability to shout into the dark, might be the very thing that triggers our demise casts a chilling shadow on human ambition. But even if the galaxy is operating on a terrifying Nash equilibrium of destruction, that mathematical fear does not define ultimate meaning. The magnitude of the silent universe only amplifies the wonder of its origin. Ultimate hope is not found in avoiding detection or achieving cosmic stealth. It is found in recognizing that we are not the final authority on meaning or power. The mystery of the silent cosmos points not to an empty void, but to a vastness stretched out by design, affirming the glory of the Creator who stretches out the heavens and calls forth the starry host by name. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 26. The dark forest may represent the deepest night of our cosmic exploration, but even the longest night is temporary. Our dignity as a species is not diminished by the existence of greater fearful powers. It is defined by our choice to remain creatures of hope, ready to meet the dawn with integrity regardless of the darkness surrounding us. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here. So let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Romans chapter 13, verse 12, and IV. Okay, thanks for watching. Peace out. Goodbye, guys.